In the main universe, Lord Mar-Vell was seen interrogating one of the anomalies he was holding captive. With time running out, Lord Mar-Vell finally forced one of the anomalies to reveal the whereabouts of the Avatar of Death. Lord Mar-Vell was convinced that the Avatar of Death was hiding from him because he was currently searching for it. He is also aware that the Avatar of Death is capable of excellent camouflage, as that is its natural ability. The Avatar of Death possesses one of the binary powers of reality that it can manipulate, but that is not enough to hide the anomaly's trail. Among all the anomalies Lord Mar-Vell has gathered, there is one person whom he believes possesses characteristics that are uniquely distinct from the others. Lord Mar-Vell stated that this anomaly is beautiful and young, which means Namorita is in trouble. While enduring the pain, Namorita introduced herself and insisted she would not tell Lord Mar-Vell why she was classified as an anomaly. However, Namorita was willing to tell Lord Mar-Vell one thing, saying, "Boy, are you in trouble?" Even though she was being interrogated and enduring pain at the same time, Namorita remained steadfast in her stance without a shred of fear. Her defiant attitude made Lord Mar-Vell even more intrigued by Namorita, causing him to completely ignore Quasar's attempts to call out to him. With a tone full of concern, Quasar said that something was happening at the gate near the sanctuary, which immediately startled Lord Mar-Vell, because until then, he had been completely confident in his disguise. Quasar explained further that 6 people were attempting to enter their defensive fortress at ultra speed. Those 6 were Nova and his team, who were now close to Lord Mar-Vell's spaceship. The 6 of them were traveling at 0.4 times the speed of light and heading straight for their target. Meanwhile, WorldMind warned Nova that the enemy could now detect their arrival, so they had to be on high alert. At that moment, no one knew who was coming except Namorita, Nova's lover. Without further ado, the 6 men quickly penetrated the spaceship, attacking the monsters inside with reckless abandon. Amid the sudden assault, WorldMind provided analysis indicating that targets were being eliminated every meter to help Nova and the others assess the situation. In the blink of an eye, the Silver Surfer cleared a path for them, while Ronan the Accuser had reached the area where the anomalies were being held. However, Ronan the Accuser's journey wasn't smooth sailing, as he now had to face the Cancerverse version of Venom. Without a hint of fear, Ronan the Accuser swung his hammer hard into Venom's face, asserting that there was nothing he couldn't handle. Meanwhile, Gladiator and Beta Ray Bill were busy clearing out several monsters in the engine room, with Gladiator guaranteeing they'd finish in just 3 minutes. Though it sounded like a mere estimate, Gladiator was confident they could pull it off. While Gladiator held off the monsters from the Cancerverse, Beta Ray Bill was busy fighting 2 X-Men members, the Cancerverse versions of Colossus and Wolverine. As Gladiator predicted, Beta Ray Bill managed to defeat both X-Men members in a relatively short time. Back to Nova and Quasar, they now had to face the Revengers again, the same ones who had previously beaten them to a pulp. But this time, Nova and Quasar are aided by a cosmic being, the Silver Surfer, who easily defeats both Thor and Iron Man simultaneously. The Silver Surfer strikes them both while delivering deadpan trash talk, which shocks Quasar and Nova, as they've never seen the Silver Surfer act that way before. After defeating several members of the Revengers, Nova, along with Quasar and the Silver Surfer, managed to enter the room where Namorita was being held captive by Giant Man. Without a shred of fear, Lord Mar-Vell actually invited Nova and the others to rescue Namorita before Giant Man's grip could tear her body apart. However, Namorita tried to stop Nova because she didn't want her lover to get hurt. Nevertheless, Nova paid no heed to Namorita's words and began attacking the monsters present alongside Quasar. Using the power of the quantum band, Quasar created a massive catapult capable of piercing Giant Man's head, finally freeing Namorita from his grip. Meanwhile, Nova chose to divert Lord Mar-Vell's attention by taking him away so he couldn't hurt Namorita again. However, Nova's action was extremely reckless because the WorldMind immediately detected the immense power within Lord Mar-Vell. That power was on a level far above Nova's, so the WorldMind questioned Nova's reckless move. Although Nova managed to send Lord Mar-Vell flying by slamming his body into the wall of the spaceship, the attack had absolutely no effect, as Lord Mar-Vell was able to easily get back up afterward. In a fit of rage, Lord Mar-Vell then attacked Nova with full force, sending him flying quite a distance. The attack destroyed Nova's gravimetric shield, forcing the world mind to quickly reconfigure it. Seeing Nova in trouble, the Silver Surfer quickly pulled Lord Mar-Vell away from there. The Silver Surfer said he was deeply disappointed by the behavior of his former comrade, who was now consumed by hatred. Without the slightest difficulty, Lord Mar-Vell immediately attacked the Silver Surfer, using the power of his Niga bands. In another battle, Quasar used his powers to create a shield to protect his friend's lover from the attacks of a visibly enraged giant man. To gather more information, Lord Mar-Vell merely parried a few weak attacks from Nova while reading his mind. Through his mind, Lord Mar-Vell now knew Nova's identity and the motive behind his actions. Indirectly, Nova revealed the fact that Namorita was not the person Lord Mar-Vell was looking for. Furthermore, Lord Mar-Vell also realized the reason Namorita was detected as an anomaly was because she was a temporal artifact originating from an artificial dimension. This made Lord Mar-Vell realize he was on the wrong path, so Namorita was now useless to him. Nevertheless, Lord Mar-Vell continues to strike Nova, destroying each of his devices one by one. As a token of his gratitude, Lord Mar-Vell grants Nova the gift of eternal life so that he may continue to feel the pain emanating from the many angled ones. This causes Nova to scream in agony as Lord Mar-Vell has destroyed every part of the Nova core system within him. Meanwhile, Namorita and Quasar could only watch from afar because they themselves were occupied by Giant Man's rampage. Back on the planet Titan, Star-Lord was visibly furious at Drax's foolish act of completely obliterating Thanos, berating him relentlessly. Star-Lord stated that Thanos was part of his plan to save their universe, but Drax casually retorted that Star-Lord had no plan at all. Drax explained that he was simply doing what was his duty, destroying Thanos. However, Star-Lord is not at all pleased with that answer, because he does indeed have a plan: to use Thanos as a trump card to stop the super cosmic catastrophe in that universe before it reaches theirs. Without a hint of guilt, Drax says that Star-Lord doesn't understand his primary goal, which is to destroy Thanos, so Star-Lord can't possibly comprehend what it's like to be Drax the Destroyer. Furious, Star-Lord then grabbed Drax by the collar, insisting that his responsibility was greater than Drax's, because the fate of the universe now rested in his hands. But at that moment, the fate of the universe hung in the balance because their primary weapon, Thanos, had been destroyed due to Drax's reckless actions. To prevent an unwanted outcome, Mantis stepped in to calm Star-Lord by saying that Drax wasn't entirely at fault in this matter. While inside Drax's mind, Mantis noted that she could sense Drax had transformed into an avatar of life, given that he was Thanos' natural enemy. Mantis explained that this had caused Drax to lose control due to the supremacy of life that was overrunning the universe. Even so, Mantis could sense a grave misjudgment deep within Drax's heart, even though he showed no sign of it at all. In the midst of this tense moment, Rocket suddenly noticed something happening to Thanos' body. Thanos' bones slowly rose and fused back together as if he were rising from the dead like a creature from the Cancerverse. In a short time, Thanos' eyeballs were seen reforming, shocking everyone except Drax, who was still consumed by the flames of hatred. Soon after, Thanos was fully restored to his original form, leaving them even more baffled by what was happening. Using his telepathic powers, Cosmos sensed immense pain emanating from within Thanos' body as he was reborn atom by atom. Mantis also felt the same, detecting extraordinary stress within Thanos following his rebirth. Thus, they now realized that Thanos was actually immune to death since he had been reborn from his previous cocoon. However, Thanos objects to this, as there is a major reason behind his resurrection. It turns out that Death, his beloved, has refused to let Thanos return to the realm of the dead, so now Thanos is forced to live a life he does not want. This makes Thanos deeply saddened, as he realizes he cannot return to the side of his beloved. Thanos' sorrow slowly turned to rage because he felt used by Death for her own gain. Not only Death, but Thanos also felt that Star-Lord was trying to take advantage of him, so he intended to destroy Star-Lord right then and there. With great composure, Star-Lord explained that Thanos needed to adopt a new perspective because his resurrection was a means for them to continue their plan to save the main universe. However, Mantis immediately cut off Star-Lord's statement because she saw that Thanos was still unstable. She asked Star-Lord to be careful, since Thanos was in a state filled with rage. Like Mantis, Rocket also asked Star-Lord to let Thanos calm down first, considering he was the ruthless Mad Titan. Rocket also looked frightened when he saw Thanos start growling at them. However, this did not apply to Drax, who, without a second thought, approached Thanos to challenge him again. Although they tried to stop Drax, the influence of the supremacy of life had rendered Drax unable to think clearly. So the battle between the Avatar of Death and the Avatar of Life erupted once more. Armed only with his bare hands, Drax believed he could destroy Thanos for a second time, unaware that Thanos had been reborn far stronger than before. In the blink of an eye, it was now Thanos' turn to shatter Drax's body into pieces using only the cosmic power bestowed upon him by death. Back in the main universe, Lord Mar-Vell finally stopped torturing Nova after receiving word that the Avatar of Death had died in their own universe. The news made Lord Mar-Vell realize that the Avatar of Death they had been searching for all along was actually roaming their own universe, which was why they couldn't find him in the main universe. This enraged Lord Mar-Vell, as someone had dared to challenge him in his own universe. Without a second thought, Lord Mar-Vell then summoned the Revengers to join him on a journey to the Cancerverse to find their prey. After being tortured for quite some time, Nova finally managed to escape from Lord Mar-Vell, who had now left them. The first thing Namorita did was go to her lover to check on him. Meanwhile, Quasar was seen discussing their enemy's potential with the Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer remarked that they had underestimated their enemy, which made him fear what was to come. Meanwhile, Gladiator informed Nova that they had secured the engine components along with the prisoners previously rescued by Ronan the Accuser. However, Gladiator looked very confused because they saw a massive light that resembled a large teleportation field. Nova confirmed this, explaining that they were all now safe. But in the midst of the rescue, Gladiator told Nova that he had important information from Major Victory regarding Star-Lord and Thanos. Hearing Thanos' name mentioned, Nova looked confused because as far as he knew, Thanos had died after the Annihilation War. According to Major Victory's statement, Gladiator informed Nova that Thanos had been resurrected as the Avatar of Death according to the Silver Surfer. After hearing this, Nova wasn't surprised at all because they were suddenly facing a new problem, just as shocking. Without them realizing it, Lord Mar-Vell suddenly reappeared before them to play his trump card, blowing up the entire spaceship along with Nova and the others inside. Meanwhile, in the Cancerverse, specifically on the planet Titan, the conflict between the Avatar of Death and the Avatar of Life had ended, with Thanos successfully killing Drax. Even so, Gamora seemed angry at Thanos for ending her friend's life, even though what Thanos did was by no means a personal act. Just like Gamora, Cosmo also looked angry and scolded Thanos, which made Rocket get annoyed too and told Cosmo to shut up before she ended up on Thanos' nuke list. According to Vision's knowledge, the death of the Avatar of Life is no ordinary phenomenon as their location has now been exposed, making Titan no longer a safe place for them. Therefore, Vision urged them to leave immediately, but unfortunately, they were too late. In the blink of an eye, Isaac detected an incoming attack from outside so quickly that they didn't have much time to leave. As a result, Vision's body was suddenly split in two by the unexpected attack that came out of nowhere. Under the command of the Scarlet Witch, the Avengers have now arrived on Titan to stop Thanos and the Guardians. After the Revengers stormed planet Titan, the situation instantly descended into chaos as an inevitable massive battle erupted there. Seeing the situation getting out of hand, Star-Lord immediately ordered Rocket to retreat, as they had a more important mission, protecting the Mad Titan. Furthermore, they appeared overwhelmed when facing Revengers like Hawkeye and War Machine due to the latter's superior weaponry. After hearing Star-Lord's order to retreat, Mantis, who was shielding Thanos from Hawkeye's arrows at the time, immediately told him to follow Star-Lord's command. However, the Mad Titan couldn't care less and insisted on staying put after realizing he was immune to everything. Because of that arrogant response, Mantis grew angry, snapping the arrow in half while scolding Thanos to do as she said. Mantis ordered him to leave immediately because they didn't know what the Avengers were capable of doing to Thanos. However, Thanos remained stubborn, choosing to stay and face the Avengers, which led Gamora to scold him as well. While fighting Captain America, Gamora also scolded Thanos to leave immediately because they didn't know how many Revengers would arrive. Gamora was certain this attack was only the first wave, considering the Revengers were the evil version of the Avengers. Both organizations likely had the same number of members as the Avengers in their universe, and even Gamora herself no longer knew how many members there were. Hearing this, Wasp immediately asked Captain America not to waste time, telling him to direct the Guardians toward her so she could sting them with Mego eggs. Amid the chaos, Cosmo approached Vision, who was lying helplessly with his body split in two. Unable to bear seeing him like that, Cosmo tried to keep Vision conscious using her telekinetic powers. However, Vision refused, arguing that their primary mission was to protect Thanos, who would be their only weapon to save the Cancerverse. For that reason, Vision insisted that Cosmo forget about him immediately. But not so with the Scarlet Witch, who arrived and declared, "I will not forget about you, my love." Since the Scarlet Witch had previously been on the Avengers' side, Cosmo assumed the sorceress had come with malicious intent and called her a nasty witch. But without further ado, the Scarlet Witch immediately flung Cosmo aside like a ragdoll and looked at her lover, who was already severely injured. Scarlet Witch explained to Vision that she had taken control of the main team to at least hinder Lord Mar-Vell's search for the Avatar of Death. She also apologized to Vision for her actions, and he accepted her apology because he knew she was still the love of his life. Amidst her sadness and anger, the Scarlet Witch apologized once more to Vision before unleashing her power to attack the Avengers surrounding her. Seeing the Scarlet Witch lashing out at them, the Avengers now realized they had been betrayed by the sorceress. Scarlet Witch was completely unfazed by Captain America's threat that she would be punished by the many-angled ones. She already knew the consequences and didn't care. She then used her chaos magic to obliterate the Revengers in an instant, declaring that she had chosen her side long ago and would accept any consequences. After the Scarlet Witch defeated all the Revengers she had brought with her, Star-Lord arrived with the Guardians to question her strange and suspicious motives. In a combat-ready stance, the Guardians glared sharply at the Scarlet Witch, who simply stood there staring back at them without saying a word. Amid the tense situation, Vision finally spoke up, stating that his wife was on their side. Vision explained that all this time, the Scarlet Witch had been using her magic to disguise herself as one of Lord Mar-Vell's subordinates in order to gather intelligence for the Resistance. With a pleading tone, Vision asked the Guardians to trust his beloved, as she was their only way out of there. After hearing Vision's explanation, the Scarlet Witch finally spoke up about their plan. They had been waiting a long time for this opportunity. To that end, the Scarlet Witch and the others would show their true colors, and would not waste the chance granted by the Guardians of the Galaxy, especially Thanos, the Avatar of Death, whom Lord Mar-Vell had been searching for all this time. At that moment, Thanos completely set aside his selfishness by agreeing to help them, but before doing so, he stated that he must reach the location where the necropsy ritual would take place. Scarlet Witch said she could transport them to the site of the necropsy ritual, though it would drain a significant amount of her power and would eventually resurrect the fallen Avengers. Hearing this, Thanos reminded her of the Scarlet Witch's earlier statement that she was prepared to accept any consequences. Of course, the Scarlet Witch was ready for any consequences and was also prepared to face the endless torment of the Elder Gods as long as she remained by her husband's side. With deep empathy, Thanos assured her that he would put an end to that torment immediately if he succeeded. Amid that emotional moment, Star-Lord stepped forward, volunteering to take over the operation. Glaring sharply, Thanos said that Star-Lord hadn't taken charge of anything since the mission began, nor had anyone else, because they were all completely useless. Far from being offended, Star-Lord teased Thanos, saying, "Sheesh, stop with the compliments. You'll make my head swell." Without further ado, Star-Lord then asked the Scarlet Witch to immediately teleport them to the location where the necropsy ritual had previously been performed. In that moment, the Scarlet Witch sensed Lord Mar-Vell's aura approaching them through a cosmic breeze. Quickly, the Scarlet Witch then teleported the Guardians of the Galaxy along with Thanos, hoping they would succeed, as this was the only way to end the chaos of the Cancerverse. Meanwhile, in the main universe, Captain America's shield was seen floating around the Sanctuary ship, which had previously been blown up by Lord Mar-Vell. The shield shot forward rapidly through the cosmic energy radiating there, taking on a slightly different form resembling a protective sphere. After floating for some time, the shield opened and released the forces previously carried by Nova, along with Namorita and Major Victory. It turned out to be a quantum construct created by Quasar, using everyone's power to safely transport them away from the Sanctuary ship's explosion. Quasar then apologized to them for using everyone's power without permission, but the Silver Surfer excused it because the situation was indeed critical. Seeing his shield as the motif for Quasar's quantum construct, Major Victory praised that power, though Quasar himself wasn't aware of it, as he had only been thinking of a shield during the explosion. Nevertheless, Quasar remained unsatisfied because he hadn't been able to save the others, as Lord Mar-Vell hadn't given them even the slightest warning. But this didn't apply to Nova, since his mission at that time was specifically to save his love, Namorita. After escaping, Ronin deeply regretted their missed opportunity, seeing it as an insult for letting their enemy escape. However, Beta Ray Bill countered this, arguing that at least they now knew what Lord Mar-Vell was seeking: the Avatar of Death from their universe. And according to Major Victory's information, they now knew that Thanos was the Avatar of Death. After everyone was safe, Nova then asked WorldMind to calculate the mass of their dynamic jump to the battle at the Fault. Speaking of the Fault, it's clear that the cosmic abstracts stand no chance of defeating the Galactus engine. Not only that, but enemy forces continue to pour through the Fault in unimaginable numbers, stretching the battle zone as far as 2 parsecs. Seeing this, Queen Medusa is convinced they will truly lose this war due to the heavy casualties already suffered by the Shi'ar, Spartoi, and Blastar forces. Besides the Galactus engine, they've also begun detecting a far more powerful entity lurking behind it, further diminishing their chances of defeating the threat from the Cancerverse. Therefore, Gladiator suggested they redouble their efforts and even ask the Badoon and Dire Wraiths for help to stand with them. However, Nova had another suggestion to rely on Thanos, but no one listened to him. According to Nova, they should help Star-Lord, who is currently bringing Thanos to the Cancerverse, but this was refuted by Karnak, who believed Star-Lord and the Guardians were unreliable. To avoid conflict, Queen Medusa immediately apologized to Major Victory for Karnak's remarks, which she had endorsed. In her view, Star-Lord is reckless and has now made an arbitrary decision without consulting them first. Furthermore, Queen Medusa explained that they don't know where Star-Lord is, so they don't know if he's still alive or not. Hearing this, Blastar spoke up, adding that Star-Lord had squandered Thanos as a key asset in their mission. For that reason, he suggested they keep fighting, because that's the only thing they can do. However, Nova rejected this, saying they wouldn't win in a direct confrontation, and so Nova would go find Star-Lord to help them. As their leader, Queen Medusa naturally rejected the idea because they still needed Nova's strength on the front lines, and ordered Nova to stop immediately. Nevertheless, Nova insisted on searching for his old friend, saying, "With respect, I'm Nova Prime, the last embodiment of the Xandarian ideal of justice. I decide where my power is used. Good luck." After defying the Queen's orders, Nova is then joined by Quasar, who wants to fight alongside him. Without hesitation, Nova refuses his friend's request because they still need extra manpower there. Therefore, Nova lends Quasar the power of the Nova Force to help them, since Quasar had once done the same for Nova. With great enthusiasm, Nova then ordered Quasar to go wild against the enemies and would meet him when he was done. Back to the Guardians and Thanos. They had now arrived at the site where the necropsy ritual would be performed. The place looked completely devastated, with limbo ice coating every structure there, making the distinction between life and death feel all the more stark. Mantis says she senses a vast, ancient intelligence that transcends the normal cosmic dimensions, making her feel slightly ill. Thanos then explains that this is the place where the superdimensional scrolls of the gods pass through, causing all universes to converge. Even the oldest ones are there. Thanos also knows that it was in this very place that Lord Mar-Vell allowed the oldest ones to enter and kill Death. Hearing this, Rocket then urged Thanos to act because this was a pivotal moment for him. However, Thanos felt he still needed time to psychometrically understand the details of the ritual performed by Lord Mar-Vell. Although he could learn quickly, it still took time since Thanos had to figure out how to reverse the magic, which of course went against conventional science. For that reason, Thanos confidently told them to leave because he could handle it on his own. However, Cosmo grew suspicious of Thanos given his nature, which could be even more unhinged than Drax's, and refused to leave just as Rocket did. Therefore, Star-Lord said that they, as the audience, would wait for Thanos' performance, but his words were suddenly cut short by a voice that sounded familiar to him. As it turned out, Lord Mar-Vell and the Revengers had already discovered their whereabouts after torturing the Scarlet Witch to the point of erasing her soul. When Thanos saw Mar-Vell, he suddenly went berserk, running straight toward him and screaming his name as if he wanted to tear the dictator to pieces right then and there. Just like Thanos, Lord Mar-Vell also lost his mind, leaving Star-Lord instantly bewildered. Meanwhile, on Nowhere, Namorita, along with Major Victory and Nova, visited the Guardians of the Galaxy's control center. Nova looked a bit surprised upon seeing the place because despite his goofy nature, Star-Lord wasn't actually a careless person. That's why Nova greatly admired Star-Lord. He was the bravest, reckless man she'd ever met, and it was his spirit that had allowed the Guardians to thrive. When they arrived, a computer detected Nova's arrival as if it had been designed that way. The computer then played a recording that Star-Lord had prepared specifically for Nova. In the recording, Star-Lord's face looked very serious as he stated that the situation was already dire and that he wasn't lying. Star-Lord also revealed that they had found Thanos in the Sacrosanct, where the Universal Church had revived him to his normal state, but twice as evil. Star-Lord then revealed his crazy plan to bring Thanos to the Cancerverse, along with his handler Drax, even though it was all in vain. Just like Nova, Star-Lord was also convinced that Thanos was the key to their problem, the way out of the nightmare they were currently living through. To that end, Star-Lord told Nova that they were using the Continuum Cortex to travel to the Cancerverse, and had already prepared a route in case Nova wanted to join him. Although Nova heard this message too late, Star-Lord still tried to convince him by saying, "What do you say, kid? It'll be like old times. You know, backs against the wall, the fate of the galaxy, certain death, all that jazz. Sound like fun?" Suddenly, the message ended, leaving Nova to decide whether to save the galaxy with his old friend or stay with his lover there. Major Victory explains that he can operate the Continuum Cortex and transport Nova to the Cancerverse using the trail left by Star-Lord. Though the couple briefly argues because Namorita wants to accompany Nova there. Gently, Nova rejects the idea and promises Nita he'll return. He doesn't want to lose her love a second time. Namorita understood Nova's deep feelings, and though it was difficult, she would let Nova go alone on the condition that he return alive. After receiving Namorita's blessing, Nova prepared his suit before setting foot in the Cancerverse. With full confidence and faith, Nova finally departed to help Star-Lord, even though he knew what he faced might not bring him back safely. At the same time, the battle between Thanos and Lord Mar-Vell finally erupted in the Cancerverse. With his larger size, Thanos was able to block Lord Mar-Vell's attacks due to his smaller stature, and prepared to fire the cosmic beam of death. On the other hand, the Guardians now faced the second wave of the Revengers, who had become Lord Mar-Vell's primary chosen force. The battle appears evenly matched on both sides, but suddenly, Thanos makes a statement that completely contradicts his mission. He did not come for victory. While slamming Lord Mar-Vell's face, Thanos says he only wants to meet him face to face. Thanos then chokes Lord Mar-Vell violently, tormenting him while saying, "Give me what I crave. Give me death. Give me the release of oblivion." In that emotional turmoil, Thanos admits he'll give Lord Mar-Vell anything as long as he fulfills his desire: death. At that moment, Star-Lord and Rocket looked utterly bewildered and disbelieving that Thanos would actually surrender before Lord Mar-Vell. Thanos displayed a significant shift in his character. Whereas he had previously been driven by ambition to stop Lord Mar-Vell, he was now overcome by despair simply because death had betrayed his love. After making such a controversial statement, the battle between the Revengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy instantly came to a halt as everyone watched Thanos suddenly kneel before Lord Mar-Vell. With full awareness, the Mad Titan said, "The anti-dimensions containing your elder gods overlap and merge here, Lord Mar-Vell. It is the perfect place for my submission. You want me dead so that death may die. I no longer wish to live. I think we can come to some arrangement." That statement immediately shocked everyone, especially the Guardians, who were also disappointed because they had always believed Thanos was on their side. Upon hearing this confession, Lord Mar-Vell immediately looked excited, as he was more than happy to eliminate Thanos alongside his traveling companions. Lord Mar-Vell then summoned a massive monster from the Cancerverse to wrap its tentacles around Thanos and the Guardians, as he didn't want them to escape his grasp. Lord Mar-Vell stated that he would hasten the death of the Avatar of Death, though this offered no guarantee of alleviating his pain. He was also pleased with the cooperation Thanos had offered, as his quest to find the Avatar of Death would finally end, and eternal life would soon be restored. Lord Mar-Vell then brought Thanos before the many-angled ones to perform his ritual, and requested the ceremonial device to carry out the necropsy ritual. Moments later, a sword slowly appeared in Lord Mar-Vell's hand as he began to recite the names of the many-angled ones one by one. K-Thl, Yot-Soder, Shuma-Gorath, and Nyarlathotep. Once the sword was fully in Lord Mar-Vell's hand, he plunged it into the Mad Titan's heart while shouting their signature word, Ftagan. Thanos immediately screamed in pain, yet he chose this over enduring a bitter life after being betrayed by his beloved Death. Meanwhile, on the front lines of the Fault, the Silver Surfer stated that their struggle had reached its end because the cosmic entities were unable to defeat the Galactus engine and were headed toward mass destruction. Now, Galactus could only fight alone, as the other cosmic beings had been destroyed after coming into direct contact with the Galactus engine. This statement sounded very pessimistic to Beta Ray Bill, but for the Silver Surfer, it was a bitter reality they simply had to face. Like Beta Ray Bill, gladiators shared the same mindset, urging them to stay focused on the battle without worrying about the outcome. As their situation grew increasingly desperate, Karnak asked the Magister to send Sha'ar and Kree fleets to assist around Galactus. Queen Medusa immediately responded to Karnak's request by dispatching Blastar and the Nova Corps to aid them. As the temporary leader of the Nova Corps, Quasar ordered the World Mind to keep firing at the enemy without ceasing. Additionally, Quasar reminded Robbie, Rich's younger brother, to stay by his side, as he didn't want Nova to scold him if anything happened to his brother. Speaking of Rich, Quasar took the time to ask World Mind about Nova's whereabouts, as World Mind was still trying to contact him at that moment. Meanwhile, Namorita, who was currently on Nowhere with Major Victory, reported that they hadn't received any news from Nova. Worry began to show on Namorita's face, as she hadn't heard anything after 20 minutes of Nova heading to the Cancerverse to search for Star-Lord. Hearing this, Major Victory suggested they forcibly pull Nova out of there while they still could, but World Mind objected, because he knew Nova wouldn't be happy about it. However, World Mind was also worried about Nova because their communication was problematic, even though his relationship with Nova Prime had always been close, as was the case with his lover, Namorita. After investigating further, Major Victory discovered an anomaly, where Cortex's interstitial sensors suddenly spiked. This occurred because the system had suddenly detected a source of energy completely out of control occurring in the Cancerverse. Apparently, this surge of energy was caused by Lord Mar-Vell's ongoing ritual against Thanos. In the midst of the ritual, Lord Mar-Vell boasted that even death itself would die, and that this was incredibly liberating. With a piercing, furious gaze, Thanos could only reply that death was the most fascinating part of life, and he couldn't wait for it. Amid the chaos, Rocket scolded Star-Lord for not making any plans, which meant they were in for a rough time. However, Star-Lord didn't retaliate with anger at all, even though Cosmo also joined in defending Rocket. As they were arguing, Mantis suddenly said that Nova would at least come to save them. Hearing this, Gamora immediately pointed out that Nova wasn't with them at the time, so she assumed Mantis was losing her mind. Mantis instantly realized Gamora was right and thought it was just a hunch, but they suddenly heard a loud voice from the distance calling Star-Lord's name, none other than Nova. With unwavering determination, Nova finally managed to locate the Guardians of the Galaxy and swiftly severed all the tentacles gripping them, except for Thanos, the savior. Quickly, Rocket urged Nova to attack Mar-Vell and free Thanos, a plan supported by Star-Lord and Gamora. However, before Nova could touch Lord Mar-Vell, he first had to face Thor, whom he easily defeated at that moment. In no time, the Revengers surrounded Nova to stop his attempt to thwart the necropsy ritual. But as the Revengers grew increasingly frenzied, Nova immediately contacted the World Mind to ask for its help. It didn't take long for the World Mind to finally re-establish contact with Nova, having previously been concerned about the fate of the Nova Corps leader. Without further ado, Nova then asked the World Mind to immediately grant him the full power of the Nova Corps, even if it meant stripping everyone of their power, including what he had previously lent to Quasar, because he had to stop the Revengers, who were now attacking him all at once. After obtaining full power, Nova unleashed the Nova Force at the Revengers surrounding him, sending them all flying. At the same time, Lord Mar-Vell remained untouched as he performed his ritual. Thanos took the opportunity to distract Lord Mar-Vell by telling him that he had defeated other versions of Mar-Vell countless times. Arrogantly, Lord Mar-Vell replied that those other versions of himself were utterly foolish for allowing deaths that could have been prevented. Even so, Thanos still acknowledged Mar-Vell as a tenacious opponent, even though he was sometimes stubborn and failed to consider the consequences of his actions. Hearing this, Lord Mar-Vell immediately looked confused as he began to sense something off about Thanos' words. Thanos then continued by stating that Lord Mar-Vell had achieved his goal. He had succeeded in getting Thanos to bring him to his death. Thus, Thanos truly fulfilled the promise he had previously made to Lord Mar-Vell, bringing death directly before him. This immediately startled Lord Mar-Vell, and he swiftly pulled the sword from Thanos' chest. However, Death, who had come from behind, immediately choked Lord Mar-Vell before he could fully come to his senses, shaking his consciousness. At that moment, Lord Mar-Vell declared that this act was unjust, causing Thanos to laugh, as he himself had cheated Death, something he could not do a second time. It didn't take long. Lord Mar-Vell's body instantly shattered into pieces, just like Thanos' body had previously shattered from Drax's antimatter bomb. Lord Mar-Vell's destruction was followed by the Revengers, who instantly shattered into pieces just like him. It didn't stop there. The phenomenon also caused a massive explosion that obliterated all Cancerverse beings in the blink of an eye. This also applied to the Cancerverse beings in the main universe, where the Galactus engine was now beginning to crumble, triggering a catastrophic event. The exotic energy emanating from the Cancerverse was no longer detectable, so Queen Medusa immediately ordered the entire fleet to retreat before they were swept up in the energy wave. Hearing this, the Silver Surfer immediately ordered everyone to retreat, as the Fault had also been destroyed along with it. Back in the Cancerverse, the Mad Titan has now reunited with the entity he loves. Kneeling, Thanos said, "I just killed a universe for you. Even the malignant Undying Ones lie crippled around us. Aeons will pass before they heal themselves." Yet Death remained silent, as if she did not wish to speak to the Mad Titan. Seeing Death return to him, Thanos believed that Death had never truly left him, even though he had previously felt hopeless because Death had made him immortal, so he could not be killed. Thanos was also certain that Death had a plan for him, considering he had carried out the orders of the entity he loved. In a soft, pleading tone, Thanos then asked Death to take him back with her, so he could always be by his beloved's side. However, Death did not respond to Thanos' request at all and chose to turn away, leaving the Mad Titan with a cold demeanor. Thanos grew furious at Death's arrogant behavior, abandoning him after all he had done for her. In that moment of utter despair, Thanos declared he would do anything for Death, even if it meant destroying a universe over and over again. Yet Death paid him no mind and walked away, leaving Thanos with tears slowly trickling down his cheeks. Seeing Thanos' growing anger, Rocket sensed this wouldn't end well. Since they were too far from Thanos, Cosmo used her powers to eavesdrop on the conversation between Thanos and Death. Cosmo heard a line that said, "It's not you, it's me." We have grown apart. I think we should start seeing other people." This line carried such deep meaning because Thanos had indeed been neglected by death, the entity he loved so dearly. Knowing that Thanos was about to go on a rampage, Star-Lord then ordered the others to leave that universe immediately. However, he refused to leave and asked Nova to stay behind to hold Thanos back, as they wanted to keep the Mad Titan within the universe that was about to be destroyed. Without hesitation, Nova agreed to the plan because they truly had to stop Thanos, who had grown increasingly powerful. Seeing this, Rocket was naturally displeased because even though Star-Lord sometimes did foolish things, he still considered him a good friend. Upon arriving at Nowhere, Rocket immediately asked Major Victory to take them back immediately because he wanted to bring Nova and Star-Lord home, the two who had chosen to get trapped there. However, Major Victory said he couldn't do it because the fault was in ruins, making their return alone already quite difficult to manage. Nevertheless, Rocket insisted that Major Victory take him back to the Cancerverse immediately because he wanted to bring Star-Lord back. Since Rocket was so stubborn, Major Victory emphasized that he truly couldn't send them back because the shockwaves from the fault's destruction had disabled the Cortex. At the same time, Death had already vanished from Thanos' presence, who was now engulfed in a fiery rage. Therefore, the two of them had to hold back Thanos and his rampage for the remainder of the universe's existence, which would be destroyed in 60 seconds. Upon hearing that the time allotted was actually 1 minute, Nova remarked that it would feel like an eternity since they were facing Thanos. Realizing they have no other choice, Star-Lord says they have no choice but to hold him back, because if they don't, Thanos will return and wreak havoc on their universe. Therefore, they must contain Thanos' rage forever, even if it means facing the annihilation of a reality. To defeat Thanos, Star-Lord will use the remaining power of a nearly shattered cosmic cube. Without any plan, they then rush toward the Mad Titan to confront his unstoppable fury. Seeing Star-Lord before him, Thanos' rage boiled over as he declared he would destroy Star-Lord and his entire universe. In the heat of the moment, Nova suddenly recalled a quote Star-Lord had once shared with her. "If death ever comes your way and won't let you pass, make sure you scream right back in his face." However, Star-Lord himself had forgotten he'd ever said that and told Nova not to pay too much attention to the nonsense he'd made up. They then channeled and combined the power of the Cosmic Cube and the Nova Force to defeat Thanos, declaring, "Let's scream in his face anyway." Shortly after, a massive explosion occurred due to the collision of their three powers, accompanied by the destruction of the Cancerverse. 3 days later, things had returned to normal in the city of Attilan, home to the Kree people on the planet Hala. Queen Medusa was seen delivering a speech regarding the battle that had claimed many lives on their side. However, their sacrifice was not in vain, as the fault had been completely destroyed, thereby eliminating the threat from the Cancerverse as well. Therefore, Queen Medusa urged all the heroes gathered there to rebuild their lands while honoring the heroes who had fallen on the battlefield. They all looked so sad, especially Namorita, as she had lost her lover, Rich. After delivering the tribute speech, the heroes then scattered to view the statues that had been erected to honor their service. Quasar was seen walking alongside Rocket, both of whom were searching for the statue of their friend. From a distance, Moondragon was seen crying as she visited the statue of Philavelle, who was Mar-Vell's daughter, alongside Gamora. Back to Quasar and Rocket, Quasar explained that the world mind had entered a sort of reboot mode and then temporarily shut down. This happened because Nova had used the Nova Force on such a massive scale that the power never returned, even before the fault was fully sealed. Furthermore, Nova's disappearance affected not only Namorita, but also Robbie, who still couldn't believe his brother was gone. Amid this sad moment, Rocket briefly wondered if Nova and Star-Lord might have survived. Still, Quasar was certain they'd remain trapped in the shattered universe, one that couldn't even be reopened. With Thanos now in the picture, Rocket finally realized that they truly could not return. Still, Rocket couldn't hide his sadness upon seeing the statue of his friend, standing steadfast alongside Nova. In disbelief, Rocket said, "Damn it, Pete. Why'd you guys have to be such heroes?" And in the end, the universe was not saved by hope. nor by heroes, but by sacrifice. A battle where even victory felt like loss. The Thanos Imperative reminds us that morality in the cosmos is never simple. Sometimes the line between hero and monster disappears, and survival demands the unthinkable. Worlds were erased, legends were broken, and the cosmic order was forever changed. The war against the Cancerverse didn't just end a threat, it reshaped destiny itself. So the question remains, was Thanos truly the villain of this story, or the only one willing to do what heroes could not? Because in Marvel's universe, death is never the final chapter, and consequences always return when the cosmos falls silent. If you enjoyed this cosmic journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with fellow Marvel fans who love deep comic stories. This is Panelix, and may your day be a pleasant one.